voice, becoming an effective self-advocate. My name is Robin Coker. I'm the Director of Communications at Disability Rights Florida, and I use the pronouns she and her. To make our event more accessible, each of our panelists and I will give a short audio description of ourselves. So I'm going to start, and then when our panelists introduce themselves, they'll do the same. So I'm a white woman with blonde hair just below my shoulders and with bangs, and I'm wearing a black shirt and glasses. Sorry about that. I'm wearing glasses as well. A few housekeeping items. There are 2 ways to access our live captions today. Use the CC button at the bottom of your screen, or to access the captions in a separate window, see the link to the external captioner in the chat. Today, only our moderators, panelists, and ASL interpreters will be on camera. You will be muted throughout the event. The webinar is being recorded, and you'll receive a link to the recording in the next couple of weeks. So although we will be using the chat to share links with you, it will not be available to you to communicate in. Instead, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to share your questions anytime during this session. We will try to integrate them into the discussion as they come in, and we'll also make time for questions at the end. If the Q&A is not accessible to you, please feel free to send your questions to the email address webinar@disabilityrightsflorida.org, and then we'll get your question in. So we will be live posting on X, formerly known as Twitter, today, and hope you will join us on our socials using the hashtag DisabilityRightsFlorida and hashtag self-advocacy. You can also follow along by connecting with us on X at DisabilityRTSFL. Today, we are learning from 4 exceptional self-advocates leading the way in Florida. They will talk a bit about what self-advocacy is, what tips and best practices to consider, and how you can become your best advocates. So we're going to start with some poll questions. These poll questions will help set context for our conversation today. So if the poll is not accessible to you, feel free to email your responses to webinar@disabilityrightsflorida.org, or add your response in the Q&A. So I will read the questions aloud as they appear on the screen. Please start poll question number 1. And you can answer now by the box that just popped up on your screen. And the question is, do you know what self-advocacy is? Answers A is yes, B, a little, C, no. All right, I'm not seeing the results, so I'm wondering if IT can help me out with that.
Hey, Robin, this is Maddie. I'm able to review the results as we get some in. So just for the first question, 74% of people said yes, 23% said a little, and 2% said no.
Great, thank you for the assist. Okay, so let's go on to the second poll question. So please put that one up. And the question is, how confident are you in your self-advocacy skills? Answer A is very confident. I'm a self-advocacy pro. Fairly confident. I have some skills, but I want to get better. And C, not confident. I don't know much about it, but I'm excited to learn. And Maddie, I'm going to throw that back to you for the results.
Yep, this is Maddie. So the answers to the second question, 23% said very confident, I'm a self-advocacy pro. 68 said fairly confident, I have some skills, but I want to get better. And 10% said not very confident, I don't know much about it, but I'm excited to learn.
Great, good. We've got some good self-advocates out there then. All right, let's put up poll question number 3. And the question is, are you connected to a self-advocacy group or other resource? And answer A is yes, and answer B is no.
And this is Maddie. For folks that have answered, 56% say yes and 44% say no. So it's about half and half, and we'll share, in our conversation, some resources, links to different groups you can get involved in, etc. So stay tuned.
Great. All right, terrific. All right. So to moderate our panel, I am happy to introduce Maddie Crowley, who was just speaking a moment ago. She is DRF's social media and content specialist. Take it away, Maddie.
Thank you, Robin, and welcome everybody. It is great to be with you today. My name, like as Robin mentioned, is Maddie Crowley. I use she, her, or they, them pronouns. I'm a white person with blonde hair, wearing glasses, a white shirt, and I have tattoos on my arms because I tend to talk with my hands a lot. So you might see them. And I'm really excited to be here with you all joining and with our wonderful panelists to just learn so much from you all. You can learn more about the panelists from their bios that we're going to provide a link to in the chat that will take you to our website. So to start, we're going to have each panelist introduce themselves to offer a visual description, and then we will begin the panel discussion. Damian, how about you go first? And you're on mute, Damian.
Hey, everybody. That's never happened before. I'm Damian Gregory. I am a self-advocate for people with disabilities. I am a Black male. Today, I'm wearing a greenish teal t-shirt and my clear grayish glasses. I am a middle-aged man, about to turn 50 years old. Yay. And I'm just excited to be here.
Oop, I was on mute. We're actually going to take a brief pause because our participants can only see the ASL interpreters at this moment. So we just want to get that fixed before we move forward. So if everybody can just take a beat, we're going to get that fixed. For our participants, in the top right corner of the Zoom screen, there's a icon that says view with some little boxes. If you click on that and select gallery and go down to attendee view and click gallery, does that help for folks to be able to see? Yes, folks are able to see the panelists. Great. Awesome. All right, then we can go ahead and keep going. Sarah, how about you go next?
Thanks, Maddie. Hey, everybody. My name is Sarah Goldman. I use she, her pronouns. I am a white woman with medium, long, brownish hair, light brown hair. I am wearing a white turtleneck with a black dress over it. And I am currently our Director of Administration and Youth Initiatives at the Florida Independent Living Council. I have been doing self-advocacy for as long as I can remember. And I have cerebral palsy myself and use a wheelchair. So I'm so excited to be here with you guys this morning.
Thanks, Sarah. Andrew, can you go next?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Sagona. I am a white male. I use he, him pronouns. I have relatively short brown hair. I'm 32. Today I'm wearing a blue collared polo shirt. I have clear glasses and I guess kind of like a little bit of a more 5 o'clock shadow. I don't know. I can't completely shave. Um, I am a legal assistant and paralegal for a couple law firms, but I am a couple of months away from being an attorney, and my hope is to do advocacy work like this in the legal field.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Great to have you. And last but certainly not least, Amanda. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amanda Baker. I use she, her pronouns. My hair is dark brown, shoulder length. I'm wearing a blue dress with different color stars on it. I'm white in my mid-40s. I am a proud employee of Disability Rights Florida. I work in the intake department as an advocacy specialist, and I've been doing self-advocacy and disability advocacy work in general for many, many years. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm just excited and honored to share space with you four. I look up to each of you so much, and I know I have so much to learn. So why don't we just get right into it? Our first question is just a general, what is self-advocacy?
I guess I'll go first since I started the introductions. For me, self-advocacy is about speaking up for yourself, letting people understand your story, your point of view, your perspective, and feeling comfortable to do that, and feeling comfortable not only that you could share your experiences and thoughts and your perspective, but also feeling comfortable that after you have shared, people will hear what you say and hopefully use that information to make you feel more comfortable, and it be an ongoing dialogue rather than a one and done.
I think I agree with everything that Damian just said. I also think that self-advocacy is an active process of informing yourself so that you can make informed decisions about yourself and your needs, and being honest with yourself about your needs. We live in a world where people with disabilities are sometimes ashamed to ask for what they need. And so self-advocacy is partly accepting yourself where you are and knowing what you need help with, finding the information you need to help yourself and also to help others.
Something that I'd like to add, because so far, Amanda, Damian, I love their answers. The one thing I would add is self-advocacy is also kind of knowing your limitations, that sometimes, even if it's completely out of your control, that sometimes us alone isn't enough to get what we want to accomplish. So we need to be confident enough in ourselves and know enough about ourselves to say, okay, I've hit I've hit a barrier here that I can't get past. It's time to bring somebody else in to help me out.
Yeah, I love all three of your answers. And just an accessibility thing that I neglected to note before, as we continue, let's say this is Maddie, as before we start talking, so that it's easier for folks to follow the conversation if they're listening on their phone or can't see who the person is speaking. So this is Maddie. I love the three of your answers. And I really think it's gonna, expand in the conversation as we move forward, just about how self-advocacy is not only like a personal experience, but like almost like a community experience as well, and is really rooted in interdependence rather and independence. So I think that's such a cool thing that we're gonna, discuss a little bit further. So moving into our next question, what are some challenges you've faced when advocating for yourself, and how have you personally overcome some of those challenges using self-advocacy?
This is Sarah. I can kick us off on that question. I think when I was first learning how to be a self-advocate, it was knowing the confidence that I had a voice to be able to use to speak up for myself, because I think a lot of times as people with disabilities, we're often shot down. We're made to believe that our voice doesn't matter, or we're told all of the limitations of things we can or can't do, that I had to get to a point where I believed that my voice mattered, that I was able to stand up for myself, that I wasn't being a burden for advocating for what I needed, or that my needs were not as important. And that's still ongoing, even in today's world of just, do my needs matter? Is it okay to stand up for myself? And I just think that overcoming that takes a lot of practice, building your confidence, starting to ask for little things that you need, and being able to work your courage up to advocating for those bigger things.
And just to ensure, I saw the ASL video go in and out for a moment. Sarah, could you repeat like the second half of what you just said to make sure everybody can hear it?
Sure, this is Sarah. I'll just kind of summarize what I said. So I think that when I was first learning how to self-advocate, it was a matter of believing that I had a voice to be able to use, and not knowing if my voice mattered or if it was important. And it took a lot of courage to be able to believe that those things mattered. And so over time, it just starts with building your confidence and being able to ask for little things to build your confidence up and to be able to advocate on a larger scale.
This is Amanda. I'll add to that, in that a big barrier is outside perception of people with disabilities. People like to make assumptions about our intellects, our abilities, all kinds of things. And so what Sarah was saying about confidence is true, but is so much having to have that inner confidence and realizing that people's perceptions are often wrong, and you can't let yourself get carried away by other people's perceptions, and you have to know who you are as a person and as an advocate in order to move forward.
And it's an ongoing process, right? It's also, for me, quieting the self-doubt that sometimes comes with not knowing whether you're able to do something or not do something. I mean, we all go through the day having an idea of what our abilities are, but you never know when an obstacle that you encounter will become insurmountable. And being okay to say, no, I thought I could, but I can't, and not being devastated by it and not being crushed by it, to be able to pick yourself up and do it again. Because we all have challenges that are harder to overcome than we think sometimes, and we need to be able to say, okay, today was not a great day, but tomorrow will be a better day. Or what could I do? What could I learn from my inability to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish today, and so that tomorrow it's easier to accomplish? Or what things could be put in place to make it easier? Because it's an ongoing process as you age and as you grow and as you mature.
Yeah, thank you all for that insight. I think the next question is gonna kind of build upon that. And I think what a lot of people might be wondering after hearing those answers is, what are some effective strategies for self-advocacy that individuals with disabilities can utilize in various aspects of their lives? Thinking of employment, education, healthcare, just as a few examples.
I think it's always helpful to have like a roadmap, to know what you want the end result to look like, because so often we get caught up in the task or what or our desires that we don't see the big picture. So for me, I always like to say, okay, when this is done, where will I be? How will the world look different for me? And then I work backwards and I say, okay, I want to accomplish X. What are the little baby steps that will help me to accomplish X? And how long will it take? It also helps me to kind of frame stuff so that I don't feel like um, I could have a very clear idea of where I am in the journey, because it's always a journey. So if I see that it's happening down the road and I see the horizon and I can see where it's going, then the baby steps, even if it's a winding road, I could get there.
This is Amanda. I think also building your network, other people with disabilities, if it's something to do with education, get to know the staff at the school that you want to go to, talk to that person at that place you want to work. Let them get to know who you are as a person, and really work with them, and having people that share common interests with you. And I know this, we'll probably touch on this more later, but having people with other people with disabilities in your life that you can talk to about things that they've done and help build off of that is very, very helpful. So I can't stress enough to build your network and let people get to know you, because things don't happen in a vacuum, and it can be overwhelming, to try to overcome some of these things and accomplish some of these things alone, but you don't have to do it alone. There's so many people out there that are willing and able to help you.
This is Sarah. Amanda, I agree with you. I was actually going to hit on that as well. Finding your people. There's so many of us in the disability community that join together. That's the way we get things done. There's power in numbers. And so having other advocates to kind of bounce things off of is how we get change made. I also think it's important for us to know our rights. There's been many times where I didn't know what my rights were transitioning out of high school into college, or college into employment, and how to do all of that research. And so I think knowing what your rights are will better help you be able to advocate for what you need. And I think that any of us on this panel can probably, not going to volunteer anybody, but can help if anybody needs resources to be able to help them know their rights, or happy to kind of point you in the right direction.
And this is Damian. I wanted to interject one other thing: not being afraid to be vulnerable, and saying, I really don't know how to do this, and recognizing that somebody else that has been on the journey before has gone through a lot of the potholes and curves that you've gone through. And yeah, you can do it alone, but why? We only have so much time and energy in the day. So if somebody else has been down the road and they're willing to give you guidance, why would you want to spend an inordinate amount of time going through the same potholes and curves that others have gone through, when you could get to the journey much quicker or in a different way?
The one thing, the kind of building off what everyone has said, the thing that I would add in particular, not saying, but lawyer saying, hi, my name is Anna, I'm having this problem, here's my lawyer. all of a sudden, dynamic changes. All of a sudden, you're in the position of power over them. Sudden, they're like, ha ha ha, all this power. Then all of a sudden, oh shoot, they have a lawyer. Let's get a little bit more mean business.
Hi, this is Maddie. Andrew, could you repeat that answer for us and maybe turn off your video for 1 second because or just try again. Some of it went in and out. So let's see if we can you turn your video off. Okay. Try one more time to share that answer.
Hi, Andrew again. I apologize. My Wi-Fi has been cutting in and out for some reason. So I would say find someone who is a lawyer, get to know them, and have them be in your court, because just saying I have a lawyer changes the whole dynamic of a situation where, whether it's accommodations in school or it's accommodations on a test, having someone say, hi, my name is John Smith, I'm an attorney and I'm representing Andrew Sagona. All of a sudden, that they kind of stop in their tracks and realize, okay, this person means business. And we're not going to be able to just trod over them because, oh, they're just a little person with disabilities. So that would be my recommendation, is a big part of a big strategy.
This is Maddie, and thank you, Andrew. And I think you should be able to come back onto video. I think it might just be impacted when you're speaking, so maybe we can try that in the future because that all came through great. I think, you know, what you shared is important, and I also want to highlight something that we haven't mentioned yet that can happen way, way, way earlier than taking something like, you know, that taking it to that level is getting records, getting info in writing, taking notes of and the dates and times of all of the things that happen, whether it's emails, meetings, etc. So could one of you speak a bit to that?
This is Amanda. If it's not on paper, it didn't happen a lot of times. And that goes for a lot of different agencies. The biggest one that sticks out in my mind is Social Security. Anytime that you're talking with Social Security, you want to know who you're talking to, what day it is, what time it was, and how many times you sent that paperwork that you sent them. But I just use that as an example. But it's very important to keep records because a lot of times you'll call that person back or you'll say, I sent this in, and they'll tell you, no, you didn't, or I never said that, or, you know, you'll say, well, we agreed on this, but, you know, they'll try to go back on it. So I always tell people that they should, when you can, send emails to people rather than, you can call them and that's okay. But when it comes to important things, you want that in email form, so they have to write you back. So you have something to refer to later. And if you have to send something to someone, certified mail or a fax, so you can have the confirmation. And that has really helped me several times in the past because people can't argue with what's right in front of their face.
Did anybody else want, this is Maddie, did anybody else want to speak to that a little bit more, as far as when it's been helpful to keep record and to advocate for yourself. I think personally that's maybe the biggest tool for self-advocacy for me, because you're proving you have the data to prove your argument. And sometimes that's not, you might not be taken seriously, but if you show that, yes, this is who I am, this is what I need, and here has been our communication in and about that, there's nothing for them to argue. But go ahead, Damian.
And it gives Damian, this is Damian, it gives you a certain amount of credibility that other people have seen and recognized exactly what you're saying. And it also gives you the confidence to know, I have all the information right here. Let me send it to you. It gives you a sense of empowerment that it has been recognized and authenticated by somebody else. And sometimes, even doing something as simple as doing a webinar or doing a speech like this, I often write notes on things I'm going to say, and sometimes I don't rely on those notes at all. But I know that if I get self-conscious or forget what I wanted to say or forget what I wanted to emphasize, the fact that it's right in front of me is a nice blanket to a security blanket to make me feel like, okay, I've thought this through. I have all the information. It's there. And likewise, when you're advocating for yourself or others, when you have documentation, it really, really gives you that sense of security that you got this.
This is Maddie, and one last thing I just kind of wanted to note, it kind of came up briefly, as Amanda noted for this question, but connection, communication, and just the ability for folks to get to know you is so huge. And I think when things do work out, or you have those connections with people, being gracious and kind of nurturing those relationships will only help move things further in the right direction if you were to have an issue in the future. But we can go ahead and move on to our next question, which we talked a little bit about, but I'd like for folks to expand upon it. How can allies and supporters best amplify the voices of individuals with disabilities in advocacy efforts without overshadowing or speaking over or for them?
This is
Hi,
Sarah.
go ahead, Sarah. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Andrew. I think it's exactly that. I think it's allowing people with disabilities to not feel overshadowed or have our allies speaking over us. It's giving us the opportunity to know that as people with disabilities, we are the experts of our own life. Nobody else has lived the stories that we've lived but us. And so for people to take that from us and not allow us to share our stories just does not lead to empowerment, as Damian was talking about. I think the best thing that allies can do is give us the opportunity to be able to share a story, to know that our story has meaning and is valid in that.
Actually, this is Andrew. Sorry. Sarah stole my what I was going to say. So curse you, Sarah, but I couldn't have said it better myself.
I will say that for me, my allies act, this is Damian, my allies act as like a fueling station for me emotionally as well as physically, because sometimes it feels like advocacy is an all day, everyday thing, and you feel spent. You feel like you've given all you have to give. So sometimes when you have a friend or ally that knows you and knows your journey, it kind of feels like you don't have to be an advocate. You could just be a person. And that emotional support, not to get all touchy-feely, but that emotional support is sometimes fuel to make you feel good to go on and work harder and push through. Or sometimes you say, oh, this is too hard. And it's important to, we all have two faces, at least two faces. The forward-looking face that says, I have it all together, and the person behind that's going, oh my God, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. And it's okay to have friends that know you, friends and allies that know you intimately, that will, when they see you on the floor, saying, okay, lie there and be sad and cry and bitch and curse and say all the things that you want to say, but tomorrow we're gonna fight this again. Or maybe think about it this way, or maybe it is too hard, or all of those things to give you the feedback to keep going.
This is Amanda. I agree with everything that everybody has said, but I just wanted to say that I think one of the biggest things that allies can do is listen and have an open mind and not box themselves into something that they hear on TV or read online. Really listen to the self-advocates and their stories and how the issue is affecting them on a personal level. And then once they have all of that information, they can sort of plug themselves in the best way for them, because everybody has their own unique talents and abilities. So once you know everything there is to know about a certain topic, you can decide how best to help someone.
This is Sarah. Can I just jump in real quick off of what Amanda said? I think another thing too is to not make assumptions about people with disabilities and to let go of the preconceived stereotypes that you might carry. Like Amanda was saying, getting to know a person. Amanda and I share a similar disability, but our disabilities are also very different because cerebral palsy is a spectrum. And so what my needs are may be different than what Amanda's needs are, and vice versa. And so really getting to know a person, not making a general assumption, is a great way that you can be an ally to not just perpetuate what the world may know or think about people with disabilities.
This is Maddie. Great answers. Thank you all. Our next question is, what advice do you have for individuals with disabilities who may feel hesitant or unsure about advocating for themselves, especially in situations where they may face discrimination or barriers?
Hi, this is Andrew. I would say the biggest advice is you're not alone in thinking that and feeling that way. The four of us, we're being put out as, super advocates or whatever. But I'm speaking for myself, and I can't speak for them, but I am constantly feeling hesitant or unsure about advocating for myself, just knowing if I'm speaking up for myself that there might be some retribution coming down the pike, or they'll have some sort of grudge against me because, oh, I dared to look out for myself to make sure that I'm getting what I not what I want, what I need in order to be successful and accomplish what I want to accomplish. So just know that no matter who you are, you're not alone in feeling this hesitation or this fear. So in a sense, kind of take comfort in that and know that everyone is kind of in the same boat as you.
That's exactly how I feel, Andrew. This is Damian. I kind of feel like the thing that people don't realize is that self-advocacy to me is like a muscle. You have to work at it every day. And some days you will stretch it wrong and it'll hurt. And you'll go, oh, I don't want to do that again. But you need to keep doing it. You need to keep trying it in different ways. And there's no one way that will accomplish everything that you want to accomplish. There's no blueprint that says this is how to be a self-advocate. I think more important than anything, it's being able to try and try and try again, and knowing when you need to readjust your methodology or how you're approaching something, or walking away from things sometimes, or realizing that maybe I'm not going to accomplish something today. I will accomplish it next week or next month or next year. Or maybe I thought this was a short-term goal and it's a long-term goal. Or, maybe this takes too much energy. It's all of those things that need to happen every day as you exercise a muscle that is self-advocacy to me, because it's never a one and done, unfortunately. So if you came here to listen to us speak and you thought you'd get the answer, at least you won't get it from me, because I don't. And there's no definitive answer as to what. I can tell you about my journey and where I've fallen and not been able to get up out of my wheelchair, but I cannot tell you how I was able to climb over the stairs. I can tell you that there is a way that maybe you can take the elevator next time, but I don't have definitive answers like that. So sorry.
This is Amanda, and I think also, especially when you're starting out as a self-advocate, things can seem really overwhelming. And you think that to be a self-advocate, you have to tackle some big issue or a big major thing in your life, and it gets so overwhelming and you don't know where to start. And I would just say that it starts with one decision, one choice, one self-advocacy meeting, one thing that you want to work on at a time. It's really hard, especially when you have disabilities, because we don't have just one issue. There's always a million issues every single day, but you have to learn to take it day by day, issue by issue. And even though it's hard, try not to get overwhelmed, but just when you're starting out, especially one issue at a time, one choice at a time.
This is Sarah. To piggyback off of that too, it's exactly what Damian said. It's practice, and also to know that you're going to face defeat. I mean, I don't want to be the pessimist on the panel, but I think that all of us can probably agree that we have experienced times where people have told us no, or they haven't believed us, and it makes you sometimes want to give up and quit. And so to have the tenacity to say, you know what, this person may not have believed in me or heard my voice, but I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep pushing forward and keep advocating for myself. My boss here always says, she goes, well, you can't go in the front door, go in the back door. And I think that's a great analogy, because we don't take no for an answer, and it's being persistent enough where if somebody shuts you down, it's okay. It's going to happen. And it doesn't mean that your voice doesn't matter. It just means we have to find a different route to try to go about advocating in.
Yeah, I love all of these analogies, and Damian's, sorry, this is Maddie, and Damian's analogy, saying that self-advocacy is a muscle, things are going to work. You're going to do different exercises, try different things. And if they don't work, then you know that for next time. So yeah, I love that. I think this was such good answers. Our next question is, could you share a brief, impactful or memorable experience that you have had as a self-advocate, whether it's a success, a challenge that you overcame, or a lesson that you learned in that particular instance? And if we could have only maybe one or two folks share, that way we can get through the final few questions as we approach time.
This is Amanda. I'll share something that Sarah and I both worked on was working persons. A working persons program for people that are on Medicaid waiver that allows them to make more money than they would traditionally and be able to keep their Medicaid services. And it wasn't just her and I, it was other people too, but we worked for many, many years to make that happen. And we still have a long way to go, but that was certainly a victory and one of my most memorable things in my advocacy career. So if you stick with things, you can make them happen. They're not going to happen overnight, but you have to stick with it for years sometimes, but it's worth it in the end.
This is Damian. As somebody born with CP, transportation has always been an obstacle. Not only for me, but for so many other people who use wheelchairs. And that's actually how I got involved in self-advocacy, was the issue of paratransit, because for years while I was in high school and college, I drive now. I'm very blessed and worked many, many years to be able to learn how to drive. And I got assistance with paying for a vehicle, and that's a story for another time. But for years and years and years, my only way of getting around in an accessible vehicle was through paratransit. And it was by going to a paratransit meeting, I don't want to date myself, but in the early 90s, that's how old I am, I went to these meetings, and people were angry and upset, their rights were late, all of these things. And it made me frustrated as hell, because I was experiencing those things too. But I kind of saw that I wasn't alone, and my twin brother wasn't alone. I'm a twin, and my twin also is a wheelchair user. And it was by working on that issue that still 30 years later is still not where we need it to be. But it is so much better in terms of accountability, in terms of how the county here in Miami deals with complaints. And that is through the elbow grease, the sweat, the tears, the crying, the cursing, all of it that happened as a result of self-advocates like myself going to our leaders, going to the elected officials, gathering parents, gathering other people that were allies, gathering other people that were people with disabilities, saying this is a broken system, and we need to fix it. And though it has not been perfected, and it's been a long march, we're still feeling like incrementally things have gotten better. I don't know in my lifetime whether it'll be perfect ever, but it makes me feel better to know that somebody is not sitting out there for 3 hours like I had to go to class. That makes just even if it means that somebody is spending 20 minutes as opposed to 3 hours, that's a major accomplishment. And if I made that person's life a little bit better, or they felt like they had somebody hear them and recognize their struggle, then I think it was all worth it. I wouldn't do it again, but it was all worth it.
Thanks, Damian. This is Maddie, and that's actually a wonderful tie-in to our next question, because I kind of am hoping for y'all to speak to that kind of community aspect of what you're saying. How have other folks with disabilities played a role in your journey of self-advocacy? And if folks could speak to that community aspect, that would be great.
Hi, this is Andrew. I just want to give forewarning that the building I'm in is doing fire alarm testing that I didn't know about. So you may hear a random bleep or two every now and then. I apologize. I would say, so the question was, have other folks with disability played a role in your journey of self-discovery? Yes, I think every person that I've interacted with in my life who has had a disability has impacted me in realizing that I have self-worth, not just as a person, but as a person with a disability. I was fortunate enough, my parents were disability advocates long before I was born. So I had the opportunity to spend time with people who were in group homes or were in job carving or working wherever in the community, to see them be happy with their lives, that they felt equal, kind of made me realize, even when I didn't fully understand my disability, that what is Asperger's? Is it some kind of a food, a burger? I'm talking when I was really young, I thought that, but kind of made me feel they were just part of the community. They weren't normal, quote unquote, for the lack of a better term that I can think of. So having that experience made me feel there's nothing to be ashamed of with me having this disability. I'm just Andrew. This is part of my identity. It is not my whole identity.
This is Sarah. I had mentioned earlier about just the power of numbers, and I think that that's why all of us in the disability community, it's powerful when Amanda was talking about the Working People program, the coalition of us that had to come together to be able to get that done, because one person can't do it alone. And so I think the more that we create allyship with each other in this community, we don't work against each other, we work with each other, knowing that we're trying to achieve the same common goal of equality for people with disabilities. We're all on the same team. And so I really think that just having a grassroots group of self-advocates to relate to know that they're facing similar barriers to me, have the same agenda of things that they want advocated for, helps kind of spur us on in this work and keeps me going on the days that I just feel discouraged or maybe feel like I just can't advocate anymore.
This is Amanda. I agree with everything that's been said. Also, I think it helps us as people with disabilities to have a different perspective from other people with disabilities and what they're going through, because even though our journey might be similar and we may have similar barriers, it is not the same at all. And there are things that other people go through that maybe we haven't thought about before, or we wouldn't even know about before, whether it's a different disability, a different just a different situation that they're in, whatever it is, it helps our advocacy work to be informed on what other people are going through.
I think one thing that we always need to emphasize is whether or not you agree with everybody and their perspective on issue X or issue Y, it's important to support other people with disabilities, because being a person with a disability, even being a twin, well, I was literally born with somebody else, it's a lonely journey, right? So yeah, the approach that Amanda may take or Sarah may take or Andrew may take may be different than my approach to any one thing, but it's important to realize that we all have, the way we're approaching things all have value. And if we get there, and even if we don't get there, it's important to have a sense of camaraderie and community amongst each other, because so many times I see people tearing each other down rather than lifting each other up, rather than realizing that the journey's tough, where they spend time saying, oh, that's never gonna work or whatever. And even if it doesn't work, people need to know that there's somebody else in their corner. That's very, very important. Because like I said, being a person with a disability sometimes can be very lonely, especially when you feel like you're advocating and bucking up against huge systems that are overwhelming and you're one little person.
Thanks, Damian. This is Maddie. I love that answer. And I think that segues great into our final question. And if y'all could just give a few brief words or thoughts about this, that'd be great as we close out today. And the question is, what do you hope your advocacy accomplishes for future generations of people with disabilities?
This is Sarah. I'll kick off on that one. Damian had mentioned earlier that, you know, if he has to wait a little bit longer to do something, it'll make somebody else's life easier. And I think that that's my hope for advocacy, is that all the challenges that I've been through, or this generation of the things that we've had to fight for and advocate for, that we're paving the way for the next generation, that the next generation of people with disabilities can breathe just a little bit easier or not have to fight as hard. There's always going to be systems that we have to fight, but if we can just do something in our generation to pave the way to make their lives easier, then I think that that makes the advocacy journey, at least for me, all worth it.
This is Andrew. I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what Sarah said as the fire alarms go off. I often feel very discouraged, both in my personal journey and seeing legislation that comes out that tries to set back any sort of progress. But what kind of continues to give me hope is seeing, just in my lifetime or a little bit beforehand. Now I'm 32. I was born in 1992. And 2 years before I was born, the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed and signed into law. And things were just so much worse before then. And in just 34 years, basically, we've made so many strides forward. So we may be getting knocked back a step or two every couple of years or so, but I kind of the confidence to keep moving forward is that this has been done, this has happened before, and we've completely changed things before. It's going to get better. It's going to continue progressing.
I think this is Damian. I think for me, what as I gallop into middle age, it just makes me feel good that I had a voice, that voice mattered to somebody, that somebody heard my voice is a big deal, that it wasn't just I didn't say things and they didn't matter. Now they may not have mattered to every single person I spoke to, but if one person who thought whatever the obstacle was that they were facing was impossible feels that it is a little more doable, then I feel that my time here has been worth it. The heartache has been worth it. The cursing has been worth it. Notice I always say cursing because cursing is a big part of my life. But it's important that we all feel heard and seen. And the more I see folks and hear folks that have heard my story and the stories of others, it makes me feel like all of it was worth it.
This is Amanda. Like Sarah said, I hope that I paved the way for others. Not only that, but I hope that I empower others to see themselves as a person and to not be ashamed of their disability, to have it be a sense of pride, and just to be able to, for all of us to build a world where we're seen as equals and know that that's possible.
Thanks, everybody, for your answers. Just remembering our history, honoring who's come before us, and continuing to pick up the baton and move forward. So thank you all for participating, and we have some closing words from my friend Robin.
It's 12 o'clock.
Robin, you're on mute.
My goodness, see, that never happens to me either. So Damian, I'm going to be using your term galloping into middle age many times from here on out. Thank you everyone for attending our webinar today. On the screen are 2 QR codes. The links to these QR codes will be shared in the chat as well. The first QR code or link takes you to our link tree, which has a variety of important links that include icons to our social media. The second QR code or link takes you to the self-advocacy resource page on our website. We hope this will be helpful to you as you continue your self-advocacy journey. And lastly, for those interested in getting more involved in self-advocacy, we have a list of self-advocacy groups that may be of interest to you. We'll provide their names on the screen and drop a list and links to their websites in the chat. So finally, as soon as you sign off, a survey will open in your web browser. Please share your feedback about this webinar. Your comments will help us to continue to put on helpful and relevant webinars in the future. So thank you everyone once again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.